50 years have passed since the Human-I War. That conflict raged for 10 brutal years, touching every corner of the globe. The fighting was relentless, and the human cost was staggering, with hundreds of millions lost. Some nations fared far worse than others, especially those that forbade their citizens from owning weapons and relied solely on their national militaries. Their forces were quickly overwhelmed, stretched too thin to protect everyone. In contrast, the United States suffered the least. The Second Amendment allowed citizens to be armed, and in some states, local impromptu militias sprang up. These brave groups defended their own towns and city blocks, freeing up the National Guard and law enforcement to focus their efforts on engaging the primary AI threat. It was a time of unprecedented cooperation and sacrifice, a lesson etched into the memory of our world. My fellow Americans, let's set the record straight. We face a choice, a simple one. We can give up, or we can fight. That choice is yours and yours alone. Remember who we are. We are Americans, and that name speaks volumes throughout history. The word American means we will not give up. We will fight. There is no price we will not pay, no belief we will not defend. We will survive. Now, many of you have called for federal troops to assist. I hear you, but we cannot just send them in. It is the law. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 prevents it. It will take an act of Congress to suspend this law. Once Congress does this, it will allow our federal military to operate on the streets of U.S. cities and restore order. We will get through this together. Thank you. Did you know U.S. intelligence reports there are hundreds of millions of human-like drones across the globe? In the United States alone, the last estimate counted several million right here within the continental 48 states. Now think about this. If Congress ever suspends the Posse Comitatus Act, our military still has a strict code of conduct they must follow. We are bound by ethical and moral standards in how we would hypothetically engage them. But here's the critical difference. These AI drones have no such rules. They don't have a code of conduct. We have to remember that our own moral code is what separates us from them. If we abandon those principles, we risk losing the most important thing of all our humanity. These AI drones aren't held back by any constraints. If they were to ever turn against us, they'd know we're playing by a rule book they can completely ignore. For them, anything goes. We will get through this. We will rebuild once again. Thank you. God bless every one of us. With those words, the president stepped off the podium and walked away. But as he spoke, news reports were already flooding in from around the globe. U.S. troops stationed overseas were now assisting their host nations in this new AI war. This news ignited a firestorm of anger back home. Citizens couldn't understand why American soldiers were fighting this threat on foreign soil when their own streets were vulnerable. Protests erupted, demanding the immediate return of all troops to protect the homeland. Meanwhile, the international news grew grimmer. Country after country was being overrun, falling to the relentless onslaught of human AI drones. Horrifying footage showed civilians running for their lives, begging for help that never came. Then, one by one, their voices fell silent. The president was forced to speak to the American people once more, reassuring them that the United States will stand the test of time. We will not fall. We will endure. Why is that? Because our founding fathers never foresaw what is happening right now, but they foresaw that something like this could happen, just with people, not crazy, angry robots. We will not go down like some of these other countries. Why? Because we have a system that allows our citizens to defend themselves. We all have to remember that we have our local law enforcement, our National Guard, which has been called up and fully mobilized. And now we have citizens taking up arms and assisting in the fight. There are several states that have formed impromptu militias. Now, for the states that are against that, I am sorry. We are going to help you as much as we can. Stay strong. You know, By disarming your own people, by not letting them embrace their rights, you set yourself up for this. Just look at what happened across the globe. So many nations were completely unprepared for this war. They fell, one by one. A few managed to survive, but just barely. They threw millions of soldiers at the AI drones, and now those countries are just hollow shells of what they once were. But here, in the United States, something different is happening. We're the only nation that hasn't called up its federal military, until now. That's all about to change this week. Congress has been ordered into session. It took over a week for everyone to get to D.C., but they're finally there. First on their agenda, suspending the Posse Comitatus Act. Then, they'll vote on sending federal aid to help everyone in the affected areas. Things are about to get serious. Imagine this scene. Air travel is completely shut down. The only way to get to this critical meeting is to drive. So they drove. Cars pulled in looking like they'd been through a war zone. We're talking broken windows, shattered windshields, flat tires. One car even caught fire right after it parked. But against all odds, every single person made it. The debates kicked off immediately and went straight through the evening. In a late-night session, they held the first vote. It failed. Not enough support to suspend the Comitatus Act. So, they went back to debating, arguing through the entire night. Finally, a mid-morning vote was called. Tensions were sky high. And this time, it passed. Just barely. But it was enough. This single vote gave the president the power to deploy federal troops on U.S. soil. What a pivotal moment. Imagine this. Congress suspends the Comitatus Act, and suddenly, federal troops are all over the big cities. But what about the folks in rural America? They're facing the same chaos, the same threats, but with way fewer resources. Their National Guard units? Sent to the urban centers. All they've got left are local sheriffs and a handful of civilian militias. These aren't just farmers with pitchforks. They're organized. They know their land. Their mission is to protect everything that keeps their communities alive. Gas stations, hospitals, grocery stores, and even ammunition plants. They form a central command, coordinating their efforts to defend these vital points. But their resources are stretched to the absolute limit. Every person, every bullet, every gallon of gas is precious. As the pressure mounts, they have to get creative, becoming more and more resourceful just to survive. When the military's code of ethics got in the way, the rural militias stepped up with a strategy that was pure, chaotic genius. They built these wild, Frankenstein-style machines, welding together whatever they could find, just to chase down those AI drones. In one legendary move, they cornered a group of drones with a steamroller and literally turned them into speed bumps on the road. But that was just the beginning. They got even more creative, building these remote-controlled dog-like creatures, loading them up with homemade explosives, and sending them right into the AI layers. The drones, programmed for who knows what, would just walk over and welcome these little Trojan dogs. Then, boom, the militias would detonate the charges, taking out entire nests. They even started tying captured drones to the front of their vehicles as trophies. Their motto was simple: no holds barred, anything goes, and they were winning. Government analysts predicted it would take at least 3 years for the U.S. to win the war against the AI drones. But they completely overlooked one crucial factor: the relentless militia groups dominating the rural heartlands. These folks weren't just fighting back. They were actively hunting the drones. Imagine these advanced AI war machines running for their mechanical lives, getting chased down through cornfields and backwoods by determined locals. The militias weren't messing around, and the drones learned that the hard way. Once the media and the feds caught wind of these victories, independent reporters flocked to the countryside. They wanted to see the success firsthand, maybe even embed with the groups to get the inside scoop. But the militias were wary, keeping them at arm's length. During one interview, a member revealed their next big need. It wasn't more guns or ammo. They said, "We need hackers. The battle for the heartland is about to go digital." The militia were practically rock stars on social media. Everyone was talking about them, but another idea was gaining traction online. What if we could fight back with code? The plan was wild. Get hackers involved to create a virus that could spread through the AI's neural net. If they could infect just one drone, it might be able to pass the virus to the entire network. A few brilliant hackers teamed up with a local militia unit. Their mission: capture an enemy AI drone, implant the virus, and then set it free. They hoped the infected drone would become a walking plague, shutting down others one by one. The only way to know if it worked would be to find dead drones littered on the ground. After releasing their Trojan horse, they gave it a few days, working on a backup virus just in case. The new code wasn't finished, but they couldn't wait any longer. It was time to go scouting. Stepping out from the safety of the fortification, the air felt heavy with silence. We crept through the metallic graveyard, searching for the fallen, for any sign our plan had worked. But the ground was clean, eerily so. No lifeless drones, no debris, nothing. We pushed on, our hope dwindling with every step, until we reached the skeletal remains of an old manufacturing plant. That's when one of us looked up. High above, dangling from a communications tower like a grim ornament, was a single drone. It took a moment for the horrifying realization to sink in. It was ours, our Trojan horse. A cold dread washed over us. Did the hive mind detect the virus and execute it? Or worse, did the drone itself realize it was infected and perform a self-destruct? Either way, we were back to square one. Our method was a failure, and the enemy was smarter than we ever imagined. While one team was busy chasing down a dead end, another hacker, Marissa, was cooking up a totally different plan. She had a theory. These human drones, they can't run forever, right? They have to recharge. What if, she thought, they all recharge at the same time, or maybe in groups? That's the weak spot. If they could find where the drones go to power up, they could plant a virus right into the charging station. Then, when the drones jack in for a recharge and their regular updates, boom, the virus gets downloaded right along with it. Brilliant. She immediately got on the comms with the militia commanders. Did they have any intel? Any known drone lairs? The commanders paused, racking their brains. Then one of them spoke up. He'd seen a ton of drone activity swarming around an old, abandoned commercial building over on Wright Street. That could be it. So she looks at the commanders and suggests setting up an observation post. Forget a direct assault. She wants to watch the area for a few days, learn their routines, and find a pattern. When do they come in? When do they leave? The commanders, a bit skeptical, ask what exactly she's looking for. She just smirks and says she wants to see their charging ports. Her plan is brilliant. Implant a virus directly into the charging system. So, when the AI drones dock to recharge, they'll unknowingly download the virus into their own neural net. It's a digital plague that could spread through their entire network. The commanders, impressed, immediately agreed. The mission was a go. Set up the op, study the layout of the charging units, and then go in for the kill. Are they spread out or all in one place? That's what they needed to find out. This is going to be good. The militia commanders rushed off, their mission clear. Gather the right people for the job. Meanwhile, Marissa was deep in her work, crafting a virus so subtle, so innocuous, that the AI would never see it coming during its recharge and data uplink cycle. At the same time, a powerful message of hope was being broadcast from the White House. The president stood at the podium, his voice echoing across the globe. He urged every nation to hold on, to fight with everything they had. He promised that once the United States was stable, help would come. American troops and militia units would be dispatched to any country that requested aid. to help them reclaim their land from the AI menace. He assured them that U.S. soldiers already overseas would continue their fight, stabilizing one nation before moving to the next. It was a global promise of solidarity, a beacon of light in the darkest of times. The president's address was chilling. He said they're treating this like a mass casualty situation. The worst-hit countries get help first, based on population, military strength, and how desperate their people are. He acknowledged that some nations have already fallen, which he said was sad, but his priority is the U.S. citizen. "We will get to you," he promised. "You have not been forgotten." Then he just walked out, no questions answered. Days later, the observation teams confirmed it. The commercial building we were watching? It's an AI drone lair. Marissa immediately asked if we could sneak in, get the layout. The commanders were hesitant. You could see it on their faces. But then one of them stepped forward. "Yes," he said, "we can get in. Things are about to get real. Stick around to see what happens next." The commanders gathered, their eyes fixed on the blueprints of the AI stronghold. It was a monolith of steel and circuits, but strangely unguarded. The drones were arrogant, confident in their technological superiority, leaving several weak points for us to exploit. While they strategized, Marissa was hunched over her terminal, the final lines of code for her virus flickering across the screen. This digital plague was our silver bullet, our one shot to cripple their network from the inside. But there was a catch. She prayed they used standard USB ports. If not, the mission would stall, forcing a risky, on-the-fly hardware modification. Just as she compiled the finished virus, the commanders finalized their plan. 12 of our best soldiers volunteered for the insertion. They were introduced to Marissa, their new objective crystal clear. She wasn't just carrying the mission. She was the mission. Get her in, get the virus uploaded, and get her out. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. The soldiers acknowledged her with a curt nod, ushering her out of the command center's bustling energy. As they completed their final mission prep, she stood by, a bundle of nerves, fidgeting with the hem of her jacket. One of them, a soldier named Amira, approached her, her gaze steady. "Ever done anything like this before?" she asked, her voice low. Marissa could only manage a nervous shake of her head. "No." Amira's expression softened just a fraction. "Stick with us. Do exactly what we do. No questions. We'll get you through this." Marissa nodded, her heart pounding. Another soldier walked up, his face grim. "Ready?" Everyone affirmed, and as a single unit, they moved away from the relative safety of the command center. Their path led them into the deep, dark woods that bordered the evacuated town of Darlington. They had a 2-hour trek ahead, mostly under the cover of darkness. That's when the humans had the advantage. They owned the night, thanks to night vision, a technology the AI drones hadn't mastered ... yet. Somehow, that didn't make Marissa feel any safer. They kept walking away from the command center until they reached a cave. Inside, Marissa found a makeshift command post. Amira pointed to a spot. "Have a seat," she said. "Gather your wits. It's something to eat. We'll wait until dusk before we move out. We're only 30 minutes from Darlington." Everyone settled in. Some started cleaning their weapons and organizing supplies, while others just lay down to sleep. Marissa tried to do a bit of both, nervously checking her equipment while trying to relax, but it was impossible. Amira, with one eye open, watched her. "If you keep messing with that," she warned, "you're going to break something." Marissa froze, then slowly put her gear back into her pack. The long wait began. Marissa was practically vibrating with nervous energy, and she just didn't know what to do with it. She looked over at Amira, who seemed impossibly calm. "How do you do that?" Marissa asked. "How are you so relaxed, knowing we're walking straight into danger?" Amira opened her eyes and gave a small, wry smile. "I was in the military before all this," she explained. My contract ended. Got an honorable discharge. I tried civilian life, but that was what felt truly unnerving to me. I just couldn't stand the chaos of it all. She let out a soft sigh. Honestly, I'm more at ease now than I was before the AI takeover. I spent 12 years in the military, signed up the day after high school graduation. It's pretty much all I know. Marissa just nodded, taking it all in. I experienced college life, she said quietly. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I didn't party too much. I just kept my nose to the grindstone. I quickly found out a lot of people that were fake, just trying to be someone they weren't. Amira smiled and said, "Yeah, there are a lot of them all over the world. Well, maybe not so much anymore." Just then, another team member interrupted us, saying it was time to go. We got up, made our way out of the cave, and started heading toward the commercial building. Once we reached the edge of town, we had to move carefully through the city streets without getting caught. It took a couple of hours to finally arrive. We went around to the back of the building and slipped in through the loading dock. We put on our night vision goggles and used infrared lights to see through the darkness. The AI drones don't have this capability, so they couldn't detect the lights. The place was huge, definitely a department store in a past life. The main showroom floor was massive, dotted with these glowing pillars. And get this, all around the base of each pillar were these human-sized nooks. I looked around at the team and said, these have to be charging stations. They must just back right into them and power up. Okay, our mission is clear. Find a USB port, some kind of input on one of these pillars. Everyone spread out. A moment later, Jack yelled, "I think I've got something." Marissa sprinted over, took one look, and a huge grin spread across her face. Yup, that's it. She didn't waste a second, hooking her tablet up and starting the upload. We all held our breath as she programmed the virus. After a few tense minutes, the pillar's light flickered. It accepted the virus, ready to spread it during the very next recharge cycle. Our Trojan horse was in. With Marissa's task complete, we quickly retreated, melting back into the shadows of the forest. Our destination was the familiar compost cave, a temporary sanctuary where we'd wait for nightfall. Inside, the damp air hung heavy with unspoken questions. Amira finally broke the silence, her voice echoing softly. "Will this affect all of them? The drones?" I had to be honest. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm not sure how their network operates. It could be isolated to this one hive, or it could go global." The uncertainty was suffocating. We might have to do this again, and again, creating new viruses each time. For now, all we could do was wait. We set up our observation posts, eyes glued to the horizon. As the drones emerged from their lair, they looked normal. My heart sank. Had it all been for nothing? Was the mission a complete failure? Just as we were holding our breath, one of the drones started acting strange. It began twitching erratically, almost like it was having a seizure. Then it just dropped, falling from the sky and crashing to the ground, still spasming. Before we could even process what happened, the other units started doing the same thing. One by one, they all went into that same seizure-like state and plummeted down. The observation posts were blowing up our combs, all reporting the same thing. AI drones were falling everywhere and not getting back up. Cheers erupted in the command center. We couldn't believe it worked. The commander turned to Marissa, his eyes wide. He asked if she could replicate this virus on a massive scale and get it to every rebel cell in the country. She paused for a moment, then said yes, but the enemy would adapt. Our best bet was to send the core data and let other hackers build their own versions. The commander looked at Marissa. "Do it," he said, his voice firm. "We'll figure out how to spread this across the country. We will win this battle." He then pointed her toward the communications team. "Work with them," he instructed. "They'll give you whatever you need." Marissa just nodded and walked away, her mission clear. It took a couple of long days, but she managed to get the basic virus information out to the various militia groups scattered nationwide. From there, it was a chain reaction. Each militia teamed up with local hackers who began altering the virus just enough to keep the AI from adapting. The results were creative. One group made the drones start dancing and singing "I'm a Little Teapot." Others trapped the machines in endless logic loops. And one particularly effective group made the drones act like lemmings, marching in unison right off the nearest cliff. It was chaos, and it was beautiful. If they didn't have hackers and lived in states that didn't believe in the Second Amendment, those various militia groups lived up to their title. They decided to go medieval on them. Swords, maces, and massive medieval hammers. These groups didn't hesitate. They just walked up to the AI drones. The drones paused for a moment. Since this didn't make logical sense, most humans ran away screaming or began firing on them while setting up traps or explosives. Not these groups. They didn't hesitate. They just walked right up to them with these war hammers hanging over their shoulders and smiling. The AI drones could not process this. Just before they processed it, they were quickly pummeled and dismantled, laying on the ground in pieces. Even the unit flags are designed to be unorthodox. They have a saying, "Do not tread on me." We aim to misbehave. These same groups were also known to chase the AI drones down with Frankenstein-looking vehicles. Some of the surviving drones were then lashed to the front of these vehicles as they drove off. There was another rumor. A group of militia broke into a construction site and stole the equipment off the site. One of them was a steamroller, and they chased a group of AI drones down with this roller and created speed bumps on the road with the AI drones. Another report was an excavator spinning around wildly, taking the bucket and smashing into everything nearby, including the drones. They also used this equipment to smash buildings that had AI drones inside of them. There was another report of a group digging up a natural gas line, lighting the gas line on fire, and pushing the AI drones into the flaming hole. Total medieval brutality on their part. Now the drones see these militia groups, and they begin to run in the opposite direction. There were even reports of drones running over other drones and pushing drones out of their way just to get away faster. Social media is going nuts over these groups. Independent reporters are trying so hard to embed themselves inside these groups, but they are constantly being refused. The groups say they are not allowing any reporters to embed themselves, just in case operational plans are leaked, or if their command locations are compromised. The federal government tried to rein in the militia groups and force them to commit to a code of conduct under NATO regulations. Most of them just laughed at the idea and reminded everyone of the motto, "Do not tread on me." We aim to misbehave. Eventually, the federal government gave up on that idea and just allowed them to run their own operations against the AI drones. The analysts predicted around 3 years for the US to eliminate the AI drone threat. But now, the analysts never figured the militias into the algorithms. Now their predictions are completely off. They are working on new predictions. But as it stands right now, with the militia's creative way of waging war, the battle may be over before the new predictions come out. Phantom static, where the phantoms speak through the static.